Welcome to the Morrigan transformation tier list video. Our tiers are going to be versatile or overall strong swaps. So these are going to be like your big team fight ults or just any really good transforms that you get a lot of value of immediately. And then A will be 1v1 swaps. So these are transforms that you're generally going to be using just for pure 1v1ing, and you don't really use them like in team fights. Uh, B tier is for counter swaps. So these are transforms that you pretty much have to use these transforms versus like whoever you're trying to 1v1. They're similar to 1v1 swaps, but they're more like niche in the fact that like you're practically forced to always swap into them if you're fighting them. I'll get into examples once I'm done explaining this. Um, Niche and situational swaps, these are for like just anything that's like very specific, like for example, like securing objectives or shredding objectives, or like last hitting like 1 HP targets. And then there's bugged slash not very useful, which this tier is mainly for either sustained DPS characters that like you don't get much value out of just swapping into like immediately. You don't get a lot of value immediately because it takes a while for them for their damage to ramp up, or it's just a bug character. Like you don't get certain abilities or passives or stacking mechanics, etc. So those are the tiers. Okay, starting the tier list off, I'm gonna go with Achilles. I'm gonna throw him in the S tier because he's very versatile, and his in Smite 1, his execute mechanic, if you don't know, every time he executes with his ultimate ability, he gets another free cast of it. But in Smite 1, that used to extend the Morgan transform, so you could easily stay up in Achilles transform for up to like 30 seconds, just chain executing the entire enemy team. But that doesn't occur anymore in Smite 2. Only your second ability, your power and protection buff extend your transform. So while it is significantly worse than Smite 1, the fact that you can just chain executes is very strong. Agni, I'm gonna throw him into I could put him in niche situational. I could also put him not very useful. You do get all three bombs. I'm gonna put him in situational. You do get all three bombs, and he does a pretty good burst damage, but you pretty much only really use him like if you're in base defense or something. He's just not a really great team fight transform because normally you're trying to just like hit one person, so like with Agni or like corner camping with people, but I don't know. It's just kind of a clunky transform. He's like fine, but especially with the rise of crit Agni with the aspect, it's just not as valuable. He does do a lot of burst damage though, but you're pretty much just only killing one person if you're swapping an Agni, and he's not really good enough to be an S tier, but he's also not in either of these categories because you can easily kill an Agni EDC with something that's better, like a better transform. So Aladdin, I'm also gonna throw in versatile because the thing is with Aladdin, he can very easily one shot and then you can ult someone and then one shot someone else. But the thing is with the Morgan, you can use his wishes, but only once, and you don't get the use of his resurrection wish. But he's just a very good character. The one issue is that if you lamp someone and then detransform, you lose all the buffs as the Morgan. Like you don't have the extra cooldown or the extra protections from being in his lamp, and then you're fighting someone that's buffed. But the good thing is normally when an ally joins the lamp, they get a debuff that makes him take more damage and deal less damage to the person that was lamped. But the Morgan doesn't get that because she never entered the lamp. Like she never pressed the interact key to enter the lamp. So you're just base Morgan versus someone with slightly more CDR. But like most times it doesn't really matter because you're kit dumping someone and you're most likely gonna try poking them a bit, and then you're lamping someone else. And then you'll pretty much just win the 1v1 inside the lamp. But it all depends who you're lamping, who you're targeting, and the stage of the game, etc. So that's when I have him in S though, but he's just a very good transform overall. Especially if you can get value out of the Power Wish or the Gold Wish early. Like getting a couple chain kills early with your Gold Wish as Aladdin is very big. Like it puts you very far ahead. With Amma, she's honestly in the middle of these two because she is a pretty good transform just for 1v1s in general. But just versus Amma in general, I would just swap into Amma because if If you don't know, you have to hit all three swipes of her ult to stun. But if Amma starts her ult, you can easily just transform into Amma and then start your ult immediately after, and then you can just stun her right as her ult ends. So she's a very, very good swap to when you're fighting Amma. So I'm also gonna put her in this tier. She's a pretty good like team. She's an okay team fight transform. It is her stun takes a while to go off, and she's just also like not really the greatest right now. So yeah, I'm putting her in counter swaps on her. I'm gonna put him in not very useful. He's not bugged, but he's just an ADC, and his ult isn't a very good team fight ult. So you're kind of just swapping into sustain DPS character into an ADC for 10 seconds, and you don't even have that much team fight presence. It's not like an Artemis ult, for example. So I'm gonna put him there. Um, Anubis, I'm gonna put him in counter swaps, because the thing is with Anubis is that in Smite 1 you could clone the wrap, like you can use your clone to eat the wrap, but in Smite 2 you can't because his wrap does damage now. So it'll just phase right through your clone and he'll wrap you anyway. So if you're using Asset Morgan, the only thing you can do is throw your clone, try to bait him out and see if he tries wrapping your clone because he's trying to predict your swap. And if he doesn't, if he holds it, just swap with your clone pre-beads, stun him, and swap into him immediately and just kill him like that. The thing with Anubis is that you can't really kill him as any other character. Like you can't really burst him as most other transforms in the game, unless it's like hyper late and it's like I don't know, I don't know, like a Bari or like a Cuckoo but like at that point you're better off swapping into Anubis, especially with Bloodbound being so prevalent in meta right now. He literally just pops Bloodbound and he survives any burst you throw at him, unless you just also ult him back as Anubis. So you just dump kit on him and then he's lower than you and you just have a staring contest. You just both pop ult and stare at each other for a couple seconds and you immediately win the 1v1. So I'm gonna put him in counter swaps. Aphrodite, uh, she's Aphrodite's honestly like okay. The thing is, most Aphrodite players are going to be playing in support, so you don't really get much value like out of her like the rest of her kit dump. So I'll put her in situational honestly, because you can get really big value for timing it correctly and you're like immuning your best player or something. Or if it's like an Aphrodite mid, which is kind of rare, but if it's not like if it's a damage Aphrodite, you can get a lot of value out of just kit dumping her as Morgan and she'll ult afterwards to survive your burst, and then you ult her back as Aphrodite, and you can get a double cast of your three and easily kill her. But that's honestly a little closer to a 1v1 swap or a counter swap. But it's so niche because not many people play damage Aphrodite, so I'm just gonna put her in niche because you can get big value out of it, but it's not very often you're gonna get big value out of that. Uh, Apollo, I'll throw him in niche. You can get decent value out of his ult for just like rotating around with your team, especially now that Apollo can take teammates with him, so you can easily like quickly rotate over to like a dual lane fight or something. And when you transform as the Morgan, you get a full mana bar, so you can easily like rotate half the map or the entire map depending on what stage of the game it is as with Apollo ult. The one issue is that the second you land as Apollo, depending on how far distance you go, obviously, the second you land as Apollo, you'll immediately detransfer as the Morgan. So, and for like a half second after detransforming, you can't really like press anything, you can't really do anything. The window is a lot shorter in Smite 2. They did improve that, but it's still a window that you can't do anything. So he's like an okay transform, but you pretty much only use him for rotating. But there's better transforms to use for rotating, which I'll get into later. Ares in Smite 1, I would have put him in counter swap because what I would do is he would start pulling me and I'd ult into him and I'd immediately start pulling him back. But in Smite 2, you can't attach your Ares ult chains to anyone who's CC immune, so you can't really do that anymore. So you pretty much only use Ares if you know someone doesn't have beads and they also don't have any other form of CC immunity, and you're trying to take advantage of that fact. Otherwise, he's kind of just not a useful transform. Also, sometimes when even if you do hit your chains, you just don't get them refunded. A lot of like refunding abilities, like anything that's like if you hit someone with it or if you kill someone with it, You don't get the refund when you're transformed as the Morgan. It's very situational, and it's very buggy. It's not very consistent. So I'll put them in niche and situational because you pretty much only use them when you know they don't have any CC immunity up and you're trying to get a free pick. Artemis, I'm throwing S tier. She's a very strong transform because her boar is just very strong. And crit's also very good at the moment too. So you can easily just press boar and you can burn multiple team beads in a team fight. The only issue with Artemis is that when you're fighting an Artemis, you'll get double stunned by her boar. So you'll get stunned once as the Morgan, and when you transform, since you're considered a new character, you can get stunned again by the boar. So you have to be careful when if you're swapping an Artemis when you're fighting an Artemis. You pretty much have to swap immediately, or you'll just get stun locked and you'll die. Unless she also has beads, and you can just beads, but like you can beads as the Morgan and then beads again as Artemis, but you really don't want to waste your beads like that because then next time you won't have beads and then you'll just get killed by her. It's a lot less of an issue in Smite 2 because you do get their relic cooldown. So you can easily just swap an Artemis, even if it hits you, you just still have a beads as Artemis and you can just beads the boar again, but it still does a lot of damage. So, but yeah, her ult is a very good team fight ult. Athena, I'm gonna put her in niche situational. I'm gonna put her above Apollo. I'm gonna start sorting these tiers. Put her up here. Yeah, he's down there. Uh, Athena is just a faster rotator than Apollo. She can instantly appear in team fight, give a massive shield to your teammates, a big taunt, etc., etc. She's just very good for rotating over to fights and instantly starting a fight. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh, Wheelix, uh, I'll put her in 1v1 swaps. She's very good versus any character that's you're trying to 1v1 that has a leap, and you know they don't have CC immunity, or even if they do have CC immunity, you can easily just bait it out or just use it as a power steroid and just box them. So I'm putting her in 1v1 swaps. She in Smite 1, I would have considered a counter swap because you used to be able to a Wheelix ult off of a Wheelix's Feather Step, so you could easily swap in a Wheelix if she was diving you, and when she flipped over, you could easily pull her off of that. But they removed that in Smite 2, so she's more of a 1v1 swap now. So yeah, Bacchus, I'm putting him in not very useful. He's fine, but the thing is, when you swap in him, you have zero of his intoxic or his meter, his one's passive. So you have to chug to even get the stun, and even then you only be in the first bracket of his passes. So he's also just not his ult's like fine, but like intoxicate isn't really that strong of a CC. So you're much better off using pretty much anything else that's like higher than him. Baron, you do have to. Thing is with Baron, you do have to stack your Hysteria again. When you swap in him. So if you ult immediately, you won't pull anyone like that. So I'll put him in 1v1 swaps though. He's a pretty good 1v1 swap because you can easily just wrap 2-1 and if they beads or Aegis, then you ult. So and especially with Aspect Baron, his 3-2-1 combo can just one shot. So I also would put him in counter swap too. He's honestly in both of these categories because if a Baron ults you, you can easily swap into him and then pop your Baron ult when you're close to his ult, and then turn your back to him so that your Baron ult, while you're CCing and you have the mitigations, eats his Baron ult, and then you could turn around 180 and then stun him with his own Baron ult, and then that can easily lead to a kill. So that's very, very strong. But he's also really good fighting 1v1ing other characters too. Bellona, I'm gonna put her in counter swap. You could argue that she's in 1v1 swaps, but the thing is, she's more of a niche 1v1 swap because you pretty much only want to use her versus ADCs. But I put her in counter swap because most of the time when I'm fighting a Bellona, I can't really kill her as anyone else because not much other characters have like the burst potential to just straight up kill her in a 1v1. So I normally just and obviously if you swap in an ADC, she'll just disarm you. So but most times I just swap into Bellona after she either uses her one or her three to poke me or something. And then I just three her, I disarm her, and then I one her, which is the slow, and then I just box her like that. And then when she ults me, I up down her again. So or I up down her, up down, and you can easily counter a Bellona like that. Or if she tries ulting away, you just ult her ult. So you pretty much just force her into a Bellona mirror match, but you poke her out previously, and you also got her abilities out as the Morgan. So yeah, I really like her for that for just for the 1v1 potential versus Bellona. Kabrakan, he's okay, but especially with Shell being so strong right now, I'll honestly put him. I think he does have more value than Bacchus or Honor, and you can easily wall people off. The thing is, like, you really don't want to waste your Morganol on something that can easily be countered by just one relic press. So. Like Achilles, even if you like Aegis, like he still has threat potential, and most of the time I'm waiting out there. And also, people don't really get Aegis that often, but most of the time I'm just like waiting out the relics and stuff, and I'm just chasing them down as Achilles. Especially with my two extending my transform, I can easily wait things out. So it's not really the same. Shell pretty much just completely nullifies your Cabrakan swap, especially if it's a support, and the Cabrakan doesn't really have any kill potential or threat potential, like it's a jungle or solo lane Cabrakan. So yeah. Cerberus, he's pretty good transform, but the thing is, most soul laners go aspect, and you don't get the aspect stacks, so you pretty much just lose all value on your Cerberus ult if you're swapping into a Cerb solo. Uh, I'll honestly put him in niche though, because the thing is, especially with knockup immunity being so prevalent right now, like, because like anything that's displacement immune is knockup immune, so your Cerberus ult can be completely nullified by things like Loki 3, Guan 3, a lot of things in this game, like Fenrir 3, like a lot of things can completely nullify you. But he does have a lot more value than like say like a Bacchus or something, so I'll put him there. Cernunnos, I honestly really do like the Cernunnos transform, but his ult isn't as valuable as like a Cupid, so I can't really justify putting him in S tier. He's very, very good in 1v1s though, especially because you can easily swap the fall stance and shred the protection, then swap back to summer to instantly kill people. And his lockdown's really good too. So I'll put him in 1v1 swaps. I really like him for 1v1s. He's very strong, especially because his two cripples now. So you can easily root someone that has movement and lock them down and then just insta kill them. He's similar to Artemis, but his ult, like in the lockdown potential, but his ult just has less value than hers. So, because like it doesn't Artemis Pig bounces off targets, so they can't like pop a talisman, which is 1 second of immunity, and completely nullify your ult like they do with Cernunnos, especially because Cernunnos is a lot smaller AoE than like Artemis Pig, which can bounce like all the way up a lane if they're chaining it correctly. So Shock, you kind of just have to throw him in S tier. It's a very, very strong ult that knocks up. It's a silence too, so even anything that's like displacing immune that's not gonna immune, the silence still affects them, so it'll silence their knock immunity and then knock them up. So it, there's not really much of a counter to Chalk ult other than like mobility or CC immunity. So and he's also just practically unkillable. So he's just a very, very good transform. Cupid, I'm gonna throw an S tier too. His ult, it's just a very, 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 very strong team fight ult. It's a stun or a mez, and it's a lane-wide cripple. It does decent damage. The only issue is that you do have to stack up your heart bombs to get the heart bomb effects, but like that's not honestly really that big of a deal, especially because his two gives stacks of his passive too. So you can usually two and then auto a bit and then ult after, like to try baiting out their mobility or something. So he's a very strong team fight ult. Danza, you could put him in counter swap because you can Danza ult a Danza ult and chase him. Yeah, I'll throw him in counter swap. You don't really use it any other time. Like most of the time, people aren't really playing Danza ADC. They're playing like I normally say like Danza jungle, so he'll have like really good burst potential. But like he's not really going to be like 1v1ing like any other like actual 1v1 characters. Like you're not gonna. I'm not swapping into a Danza to like 1v1 a Loki or a Wheelix or something. So. Yeah, I'll just put him in counter swap because I normally just use Donza just to chase him when he ults away. But even then, I'd honestly probably just hold my ult if I get him to ult out. But yeah, I'll put him here though. If anything, I'd probably just put him in not very useful though. But yeah, I'll keep him here. Fenrir, uh, honestly, I'll put him in strong because he especially with the build that he has right now, the Bruiser auto tech proc build, he can very easily just 100 to 0 people with his three, and then his ult is obviously it's insane value because you can easily pull beads like that. Uh, yeah, I think I'll put him in S. You could also make a case that he's just a 1v1 swap because he's not really as big as these other teamfight ults. But I don't know, I just whenever I see a Fenrir, especially if he's Bruiser, I'm swapping into him majority of the time because you can very easily pull actives like that, and then since you're so tanky, you won't get bursted, so you can still re-engage as Morgan after you've gotten all their actives and stuff. So Geb, uh, I kind of want to put him. in these situational, he's similar to Aphrodite, where it's just kind of like if you get a good three or a good ult off, it's like pretty big value. But like he's not nearly as safe as some other tanks, like a Chalk or something. So, because you can easily get locked down. So, yeah, I'll keep him here. Guan, he's an okay swap, but most of the time I'm just swapping in a Guan just to counter ult a Guan Yu that's ulting me or trying to ult away, and I chase him with that. He's an okay teamfight ult, but he can very easily get like walled off by things like Odin Cage and they can just jump over a wall if you Guan ult them. So especially because Guan's not very great right now, and he's also not very great in lane either. So most of the time when you see a Guan, it's either gonna be a Guan jungle or a Guan support, and a Guan jungle is gonna get blown up while you're riding your horse. So he's just not very great. And a Guan support, it's like a fine transform, but there's much better transforms. Uh, yeah, but like if I'm fighting a Guan in solo, which is very rare, I'm just swapping into him to chase him down his horse because most of the counter swaps you either can't really chase them as anyone else or you can't really burst them as anyone else. So you can just swap into them to kill them themselves. Hades, I kind of have to put him in S tier. His ult is just it's loaded, it's broken. You just get Hades ult and it shreds prots, it gives you prots, it gives you percent prots, it's mitts, it gives you everything. And then you also get the free cast of his ultimate abilities too. So you can dump kit his Hades ult and then dump kit again, or you can just ult to get actives and then Hades jump out. So he's just a very good transfer. He's very good in 1v1s versus Hades. So he's also in the 1v1 swap, also in a counter swap, also in strong. He's just pretty much everything you want to transform. Let me move him up actually. He's one of my favorite transforms in Smite 2. Let me fix these a bit. There we go. Hecate, she's more niche. I'm mostly just like her ult's a very big team fight ult. The thing is like her two, you mainly want to stack up over the course of a fight. So you kind of want to pop your Hecate two and then start getting your stacks, and you can one-shot combo with someone with that. But the Morgan doesn't gain the stacks in her two, so you'll just throw up your two, and then you don't really get much value out of it. So like you don't get her current stacks. You can still stack it while you're swapped into her. It just stacks very slowly. So and her passive is practically useless because you can't even like mark anyone with your passive. So yeah, it's just you don't have a passive. You basically don't have a second ability. Your one will be on the blue stance by default 'cause that's what Hecate one is on by default. So you don't even get the mesmerize either. So she's a fine transform like if you're base defending or something. But if they just pop talisman, you lose all value out of the ultimate. So and you won't have your two to burst anyone. So you kind of just only get value out of the ult. So if you don't get value of the ult, you're kind of just you're screwed. You're in a really bad spot. Hercules, I'll put him in strong. With his Smite 2 edition with Apotheosis passive with the cooldown reset, you can easily get two Hercules kits off in a single Morgan transform, which is very strong, especially if it's Pendulum Blade. So you can kit dump ult them and then kit dump them again. So you can easily chain kills, especially if you get like any cooldown resets with like Jones or something if he has that. Or you can also just pull multiple actives too. He's just a very strong transform. Let me put him above some of these other ones. He's not like great. He's not like a really big team fight ult, like like a Chalk, Hades, Artemis, Cupid, but he's still very strong. Mulan, I'm gonna put her not very useful. She's just her ult is a fine transform, and then they in Smite 1 you used to not get her trained abilities, so you couldn't even get any any value out of Mulan transform. But in Smite 2 you do get a bit more because they did fix that issue. So I will have whatever training Mulan has in her abilities, but she's just not the greatest right now, and her ult isn't nearly as good as any of the other ults above her. So and she's just kind of clunky overall. So put her there. Hunbat's I mean you already it's Hunbat's ult. Like it's one of the best ults in the game. Honestly, I'll put him above Hades because especially if he's going stun bats, you can easily ult, get their beads, and then stun them again as bats, and then they're locked down. They're basically just dead. Uh, yeah, and he's also really good in 1v1s. He's just overall really great. The one thing about bats, it's similar to Artemis though, that if you get they recently changed it so Hunbat's ult can't fear you more than 1 second at a time. So after you're feared for a second, you can't get feared again. But the Morgan, when she transforms, she cleanses off that specification, so she can get feared beads the ult, transform, and get feared again. So if Hunbets goes blink, which I see a lot of Hunbets go blink, if Hunbets goes blink, you just get caught in another Hunbets ult, and you won't have bead since you're Hunbets and he has blink, and then you just die immediately. So you have to be a little careful when you're using this, but he's one of the best transforms, if not the best transform in the game. Uh, Actually, I'll put Hades above Hunbets a bit because the thing is Hades does have intrinsic safety and CC immunity and healing, so I like him a bit more than Hunbets, but Hunbets is still very 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 good transform. It is like if they beads and he's not stun bats, you kind of just have to jump out as Han bats. But with Hades, even if they have beads, you can still sometimes, especially if it's Laking Hades and he's full damage, you can still burst them through the beads. So yeah, I really like him. And if they don't have beads, they're just dead immediately, unless they kill you before. But most of the time that doesn't happen because he'll have Bloodbound, and you get their active cooldowns too. So Izanami, I'm gonna put her not very useful. She's she's her ult's not very great. It's a small AoE. She's a very sustained DPS. She's just not great at all. I rarely ever swap into her. I almost swap into her from like burning an objective, but like even then, like yeah, yeah, I'm not swapping into her. I'm gonna put Jingwei in the same category. Same thing. It's just kind of just like sustained DPS. I will put her above these other ADCs because you do get all three charges on your second ability, your two, which is the one that gives you bonus crit damage and or crit chance and basic damage, and it's wider too. So you can easily like two, three or two shot people late game if it's a Jingwei that's building correctly. But it's just her ult's very slow and clunky, and it's not much value at all. So I pretty much only use this if I see the enemy Jingwei like aggro dashing, because if I try stunning her as the Morgan and she beats my stun, she'll just kill me before I get my transform off. So she'll just two shot me. So I kind of just have to swap into her and just kill her before she kills me, but she's not really in the same categories as these counter or 1v1 swaps because you can still kill Jingwei as other characters. Right? So yeah, Kali, you would think that she's in not very useful because she's very sustained DPS, but depending on her build, she can just be a counter swap. Because the thing about Kali is you can't really like if you're the Morgan, you can't really outlive a collie diving you, especially if she's building intelligence or auto attack even, because she'll just hold left click and you're dead, or she bursts you before you transform. So whenever you see a collie like jumping in on you, I wouldn't even stun them. I would immediately swap into her and just kit dump her back and wait for her ult, wait like maybe a second or a half second, and then ult her so that that her ult ends before yours. So that you'll still have death immunity, and you'll both be one shot, but you'll still have death immunity, and you could just kill her with her ult. So, and with the ADC Kali, it's kind of similar, but she doesn't have death immunity. But the thing is, like, not many other characters are really gonna match her DPS or her shred potential. So the one thing about Kali is that the mark is kind of buggy. So when you swap into Kali, sometimes you just won't have a mark at all, and that's a really really big deterrent in me swapping into her. But sometimes I'll just swap into her if I see her like popping her ult and she already jumped in or something and she's playing really aggressive, and I'll swap into her and I'll quickly shred her or whoever's peeling for her, etc. So I'll keep her here. Khepri, his ult is pretty good, but it's similar to Afro or and Geb. It's kind of just like if you get big value out of the ult, like that's nice, but like you really don't want to really waste your Morgan transform, especially because when you're the Morgan, you're a very big hyper carry character. Like you can easily like put your entire team in your back. So you don't really want to swap in these characters like Afro, Kep, Geb, which the only thing you're doing is just saving one ally and that's it. Unless they're like hyper carrying you or you're a Morgan support or something. But this is mainly for like a Morgan solo mid or jungle. So someone that's trying to carry the game, not really play supporty. But like if you're support the Morgan and you're fighting an enemy Khepri or something, and he Khepri ults his carry, and they're both 1v1ing, then I could see a case where you would swap in a Khepri and save him. Or like if your jungler who's hard carrying is like hard diving and you want to save him, you can pop a Khepri ult. But otherwise, I wouldn't really use that transform. Cuckoo, I'll put him in niche. He's similar to most of these other burst mage ults where you kind of if you get value of the ult, that's big. Otherwise, it's just a worthless swap. So I pretty much only use these kind of transforms if I'm trying to like secure an objective. Because if you don't have lockdown or they have Aegis or actives or anything like that, and you miss the ult, you just completely lose value out of the transform. So yeah, I'll keep them there. And you can also easily get dove and killed when you're swapping into a cuckoo. So Loki, up in 1v1 swaps, you could make a case that he's also a counter swap, but he's very good in like to 1v1 or chase any characters that have like leaps or something because his ult is a teleport and it's also cripple too. So like if, especially if you see that someone has burned their mobility, you can easily swap in a Loki. So you can 2 them as Morgan, swap in a Loki, proc her 2, and insta kill people. So he's also just very good at killing Loki too. But the thing is, like, you can't ult on Loki first because he'll just either A ult you back if he's full HP and insta kill you, or B he'll just ult out and then you'll waste your transform. So and his ult, and also you don't get your stealth reset if you're swapping a Loki and you get a kill. Loki's supposed to get a stealth reset if he kills someone and is with his one down, it completely resets it, but the Morgan doesn't get that. So he's not a very great team fight transform. So you pretty much only swap into him just to kill one person and then you just leave. That's it. Medusa, she's a pretty good transform. She's decent lockdown, but I'm putting her in 1v1 swaps. She's also kind of a counter swap because most of the time when I am fighting Medusa, I just swap into Medusa. So I can ult when she ults, and I can quickly 180 face tank the ult, and then 180 back and kill her that way. But she's also really good at killing tanks in solo lane or pretty much any solo lane character, depending on who you're fighting. Especially because a lot of the time, if they see that they're fighting the Morgan, they'll rush magic protections, and you're swapping into Medusa, who's a physical character, so you can insta kill them like level 5 or 6 and just burst them quickly. So, but she also has really good lockdown like some of these other characters. So I would swap into Medusa just for 1v1s. Merlin, I'm gonna put him in bugger not useful, especially if you're using aspect. It's very unpredictable and inconsistent, like the value they're getting on a Merlin swap. And yeah, he's just not, and he's also a sustained damage character. A lot of the time, you kind of just want to like space out your abilities in Merlin and get a lot of value out of just poking. So he's just naturally not a very great character to swap into. Especially because when you first swap into Merlin, whenever you transform into a character, you're how they spawn into the game. So when you swap into Merlin or Uller, for example, but mostly Merlin, you swap into Void Stance. So like yeah, it's just not most of the time when you're trying to 1v1 someone, you want fire stance, but like fire voids, like it's a fine combo. He's just really clunky, especially if he's using aspect. If he's using aspect, I would never ever swap into him. Unless you're just like a cracked Merlin player and you're trying to, I don't know, assert your dominance or something, I would never swap in him. Mordred, you don't get any wraths, you don't get your ultimate. He's also similar to these other characters where he wants to do sustained damage, he wants to spend abilities, he wants to be in the fray, he wants to be there for a while, and that's just naturally not good. Yeah, so he's just not very great. Neith, situational. You pretty much she's similar to these other characters with global presence, where you kind of just only want to use them to just have global presence and global pressure. I'll move him up too. So yeah, you pretty much only need ult. Like if you see someone's starting a fight or they're winning or losing a 1v1 and you think you're gonna get big value of the ult. But the thing is, especially if you're in solo lane and you're swapping into a Neith, your Neith ult, if they're fighting in dual lane, it's gonna take a while to get there. So yeah, but she's also just very good just for finishing off low HP targets. I'm gonna since I'm already almost there, I'm gonna throw Nuwa in the same category too. She's just very similar. You can just use them to last hit or to finish off 1 HP targets that are running away or something. Also really good for vision too. Sometimes I swap in a Nuwa just for vision, but like we have Eye of the Jungle now, so and you can easily swap into some like your jungler for example that has Eye of the Jungle, so you can like see where enemies are and Nuwa is also not the greatest right now, so yeah, she's just like fine. She's like these other global these 4 global characters that just you just get value out of just being everywhere or rotating or just having presence like that. Nemesis, I'll put her in counters or in 1v1 swaps. She just has you just swap in a Nemesis and you just shred their prots and you just 1v1 them. It's very simple. You just fight them. Odin, I'll put him in niche situational. I'll put him above these guys though because especially a lot of characters in the meta right now, like Bari, Agni, who else? Like pretty much just any of these backliner characters, you can easily swap in Odin and you can cage them and they can't run, they can't heal, and it's just very big value. The one issue is that uh, they can easily just pop shell and walk out. But if you see that they don't have a shell up, or they just don't have shell at all, or they have no mobility, you can easily cage them, lock them down, and then you can let your team clean up. Especially if you're solo in the Morgan and you have a mid laner that has big AoEs, like a Hecate or something, or like an Agni, or like a Neith, or a Poseidon, anything like that. You can get really big value out of the cage if you just cage like 5 people at once, and it's insane value. But he's definitely situational and he's a little more niche than these very, very great team fight ults because you don't consistently get value, especially if they're characters with jumps or leaps or anything or any type of escape, or if they have like multiple shells on the team. So if you have an Odin on your team, like an Odin jungle, and they have three shells, I probably wouldn't be swapping to him unless you see that they burn their shells all on him. But that's very, very rare, and that shouldn't be happening anyway. So Pele. She is bugged currently, so whenever you swap into her, you don't get your one. Well, you get whatever one charges that Pele currently has, and most of the time as the Morgan, you want to be waiting for an opportunity, and your Pele is either going to be diving and then you dive as her, or you're going to be like she's going to be poking with her one. So she's either going to have one charge up or zero, and if you swap into her, you'll have whatever she has currently. Most of the time it's zero though, so you just won't get any value out of her one. And especially if she's a damage Pele and she is like Crusher Heartseeker and stuff like that, you lose out on a lot of damage and a lot of burst potential. So unless you're like fighting a Pele and it's a Pele jungle and you find her out like in the jungle or something and you're trying to 1v1 her, I would do that. Otherwise, I wouldn't ever swap into her because a lot of the time you'll just swap into her and you'll just lose the 1v1 because you just don't have like one charges. So yeah, I probably just want to be swapping her. And the thing is, it's like even if she has one charge and the other charge is coming off cooldown, like just coming back off cooldown, or yeah, off cooldown when you swap in her, you'll only have the one charge. So if she's like at one charge and like zero point 0.5 seconds off her next charge, and you swap into her, she'll have both charges and you'll only have one. So she just practically always insta wins the Pele 1v1, the Pele mirror match. So I don't like seeing Pele as a transform if my jungler picks it. Especially if it's a Pele solo, like on the enemy team, you can't really ever kill her because she'll just have her one charges and she's also very tanky. And if she's very tanky, obviously she doesn't do that much damage. So yeah, I wouldn't really swap in her. I will put her above these other characters though because you can still get really big value out of it, especially if you're calming with your Pele or you see that your Pele hasn't like used any of her one charges or she's like dead or something. You can get really big value out of her ult. Also, like you don't really need the one to get value out of this transform. But it's just like if you're counter diving a Pele or you're trying to 1v1 her, you just pretty much you can insta lose a fight or insta lose the game like that. So she's also like a very one-off character. Like yes, she can burst multiple characters at once, but most of the time you're just kind of like diving one person, you're blowing yourself up trying to kill that one person. So and I really don't like transforms like that force you to all in. Yeah, I just don't. Yeah, I like to play a lot more safe, especially because I'm a very like hard carry type player. I really like to just wait things out and go in and engage when I see a room for engagement, opportunity, window of opportunity. Poseidon, he is a very good transform. Uh, but if they have Aegis or they just like pop beads and run your ult, you can lose value. Uh, I'm putting him in 1v1 swap. He's not really on the same tier as like Hunbat's, Artemis, Cha. He's not really any of these really big team fight ults or like really great 1v1 swaps like these four. But he's very very high burst damage, especially if you know they don't have beads or Aegis up, or if you're fighting a character that has like really high mobility. You can easily swap in this Poseidon pick and just insta-verse people, so you can easily kill people. You can also use them to like burn objective, use ADC pause or jungle pause, or you can use them to secure or steal objectives even. But like if you're looking to steal objectives, I'd probably just swap in a Vulcan or something because it's a lot more pretty much just guaranteed. While I'm at, I'm just gonna put the Vulcan in the same tier as these other big AoE mages. There's also a bug though with Vulcan that you can get one of his mods. You can get the Thumper mod as a Morgan, but it doesn't really do much, and it's also very buggy. So sometimes you place your Thumper when you're detransformed as a Morgan because you can buy it after you swap in him, and it'll just do no damage. Like it'll keep pulsating, but it won't do any damage. So yeah, it's not very good. I would only use these characters if you're trying to steal objectives or defend. And like if let's say if you have an Odin jungle in your team and they don't have Shell, you can easily swap in a Vulcan and look for a big Vulcan alt play there. Otherwise, I wouldn't really swap in it. Pretty much any of these characters. They're pretty much just used for securing, etc. Bari S tier. She's literally one of the best ults in the game. Yeah, that's not really much, especially because right now, next patch this is going to change, but right now, the Morgan ult doesn't scale up and cool down. So any of these ult cooldowns are like longer than hers, it's not going to scale up. So even if Bari is full crit ADC and her ult's 110-second cooldown, if you swap in her as the Morgan this patch, you'll just you'll just have a Bari ult on a 60, 70-second cooldown, and that's very, 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 very strong because it's like full death immunity for your entire team, and it's insane burst damage. You get multiple kits. It's just very, very strong. Honestly, I'll put her up here. Yeah, I'll put her up here. think she's one of the best, if not the best transform in the game. Next patch, it definitely will go down. And since the patch is coming out, I'll actually move her down a bit. Since her ult is such a long cooldown, it's a lot longer than any of these transforms. And she also doesn't have any intrinsic CC immunity, and you can very easily get dove. And if you're ulting before the, like, let's say if you're fighting a Bari, if you're ulting before the enemy Bari ults, she can easily kit dump you, get your death immunity out, and just kill you. So you can also de-transform while your death immunity is up, and you can still just die. It's also a little clunky. Like if you pop dagger while you're death immune, it'll just kill you. It'll go through your death immunity and just kill you. So it's a little weird, but it's very, very, very strong transform. Raw, situational. You pretty much only using to steal objectives or secure. Pretty much I almost exclusively use them just to steal objectives though. Rama, a similar thing. I'll put him like a little lower than these other global ults because he's not really global, but you can easily finish off 1 HP kills or maybe still objectives, but he's not nearly good as stealing objectives as the other characters. Actually, I'll put him lower because it's very, very rare for you to be able to one-shot someone or finish off someone, like last hit someone, than like these two characters. Like Nuwa and Neith are going to give you much more value majority of the time. Just because this is a stun, this is hits all 5 minutes of the enemy team. This is just it's very low steal potential, and yeah, it just he's not a very great transform. You can shred if you swap in him, you can like easily shred people like tanks or frontline or whatever. But like I would put him down here, but he does get decent value out of his ult because you can sometimes, very rarely, like steal objectives or kill, but it's very rare. Scylla, I'll put her like in niche situational. You can very easily steal or secure objectives, and you can easily chain kill if you're a very good Scylla player. You can swap into Scylla and just go crazy and just kill multiple people with your ult. But you don't get the ultimate stack that Scylla has, so you'll just be the Scylla, but like worse in every way. So you won't have any stacks when I'm a monster, so you won't get the extra scaling or bonus damage. So it is a pretty good transform, but not nearly as good as these other ones, especially because she takes so long to scale and she takes forever to come online. So I put her in niche. I pretty much only swap in her if I'm trying to secure, or if I see the enemy Scylla ulting and I know I'm going to be able to get a free ult off on her to finish her off, but otherwise I'd probably just swap in anything else. Sobek, put him in probably in versatile strong. He's, especially if he has Sunder, you can easily execute people and finish them off, and with board being so strong right now, you can very easily get out. So he's also kind of a counter swap because a lot of times if Sobek tries plucking you, you can just beads the pluck into Morgan, swap into Sobek, and immediately pluck him back. And if he ults, you can really just chase him down afterwards, and your team can just shut him down while he's slowed, and you can kill him easily. Especially if it's like a solo lane, Sobek, you can easily go for 1v1s that way. You can easily go for solo kills that way. So you can just pre-beads his pluck, stun him as a Morgan to him, swap into Sobek, sunder him, and kill him easily. But yeah, I think he's very, very strong though, especially because he can easily go underneath these walls like Ymir, Yamoja, Odin, etc., Karakin, and he's just very, very strong right now. Soul, I don't really like her as a transform that much. That's mainly because I'm just a bad Soul player. But I'll put her in niche situational. She's pretty good in 1v1s. Her burst potential is really good, but if she's ADC Soul, she doesn't really have lockdown, so she's not nearly as strong as these other picks. So and her immunity it takes a while to go off. And if you're spending like I'm not sure how long it is, like 2 or 3 seconds in her immunity, you're just burning time in Morgan transform. And especially if she's ADC, you're losing a lot of value because for those 3 seconds you can't auto attack or anything. So you get much more value out of like pretty much any other ADC swap than her. Honestly, I'll move her down to not very useful. I'll put her above these other characters though, especially because it's a mage soul. You can easily burst people like that, so it can be good. But I just personally wouldn't swap in her. Zeus, knee situational. He's very, 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 very strong, and when you're defending base and stuff like that. But outside of that, like you can swap into ADC Zeus to burn objectives, or like a jungle Zeus to burn objectives. But like that's pretty much all you're doing. Uh, yeah. He can also be a counter swap, but the thing is, you can very easily just get bursted by a Zeus sword. But like, because if you're ulting his ult, you're taking like 2 or 3 ticks of his ult before you even get a chance to use your Zeus ult. So you do cleanse off his charges though when you swap into him, but like it's not very relevant because he'll just kill you. So especially because sometimes he can one you and it can bounce off to your transform if you time it perfectly, which I guess it'd be timing imperfectly because it's negative for you, but he can one you and then it can bounce to your transform when you're Zeus or any other character and he can just insta kill you that way. So I I will pretty much only use Zeus when I'm trying to seal objectives or like kill people on objective or on base defense or stuff like that. Sasano, I I do like Sasano ult, or I do like Sasano swap. I think he's pretty good. Yeah, I'll put him up here in S. Uh, the thing is, he's just not nearly as much value as majority of these other like really big team fight ults. I'm gonna move him up a little higher though. Uh, I would much rather swap in these three right here because they or pretty much anything above him because they just provide so much more safety or utility or value. And yeah, he's basically just a 1v1 transform, but he has a pretty big ult. That's pretty good for team fights. But yeah, I think he's fine. I think it's a pretty good swap, but yeah, I mainly just use him just for 1v1ing people, just for 1v1. I'm tempted to put him in 1v1 swap, but his ult is a pretty good team fight ult. So Thanatos, I pretty much he is an okay swap, but like most of the time you're not really getting multiple chain kills when you're swapping into Thanatos. You're just executing one HP target. But I'll put him in counter swap. I really like to use Thanatos swap when I see the enemy Thanatos ulting and I swap into him, and if he lands, I either A, get him to land safely at like to safety so he doesn't land on my teammate, or B, if he lands on my teammate, I instantly land on him and I counter Thanatos ult him and I can insta kill him like that and I save my teammate. So it depends. You can also use him to chase 1 HP targets and kill them, but uh, I mostly just use them. It's similar. I'll put Thorn in the same tier too. It's a similar reasoning that I pretty much just use these two exclusively when I hear or see these two characters ulting, and I just dunk on them and I just ult them back. Thor is a pretty good swap in general, but the thing is, he requires you to ult outside of a team fight, like before you even do anything as the Morgan, and I don't really like that unless I know that they don't have actors or something, then I can swap into a Thor and 100 zero them. But like it's just very risky, and it kind of requires like a lot of knowledge. Like you have to know like that they don't have anything, and you don't see anyone else around. 'Cause otherwise, you'll just dunk on them, and they'll just live if they have Aegis or beads, or if their teammates are around, and you just die. And you can't really burn their things as like it's not like you're swapping into a you're dumping kit as the Morgan and you're just a Susano point blank in their face and you just get a free kill. Thor's a lot more clunky if you're like face to face and you're point blank, and you really get value out of Thor ult. Double Thor ult is pretty strong, but then you're relying on your Thor to hit his ult and get beads out first, and then you dunk after he gets all their stuff out. But it's just very you're very reliant on your team. So and your one shot combo uses your hammer, which is your only escape. And yeah, he's like an okay transform, but I mostly just use him as a counter. The Morgan, obviously you can't swap into the Morgan, so Uller, similar thing with the rest of these characters on here. It's just very sustained damage, and yeah, I just rarely swap into him. Especially because since Uller does start off in bow stance when you first swap, you can't swap into Uller and immediately axe. You have to stance switch and then axe, and it's just very, very slow, very clunky. And yeah, unless you're like a really good Uller player and you're trying to ego someone, you swap into Uller and you can just 1v1 the Uller or 1v1 someone. I never use Uller. I mean, I'm also not a mechanical player, so I don't play for those ego 1v1s. I tried just going for big team fight ults or like really big plays. Yamoja, I do really like emoji swap, but the thing is, it's not really a bug, but it kind of is. She doesn't get any Omi when you swap in her, so when you ult into Emoja, you're literally forced to just ult immediately as Emoja. But it's similar to Odin, where if you know they're on Shell or Mobility up, you can easily get a really big emoji cage, especially if you're paired up with another emoji and you're in comms. You can easily get a double cage and just make a box with your emoji ults and get really, really nasty cages and just insta kill like entire teams like that. But it's very rare, it's very situational, and it's very hard to do unless like you're calming or you're with a very good emoji player or you're a very good emoji player yourself. And like I said earlier, you also don't get the Omi, so you're forced to ult just to get half an Omi bar. So it's like a fine transform, but I wouldn't really use her that often. Ymir, I'll put him in not very useful. It just he's similar to these wall characters, but his wall is like just objectively a lot worse than these other characters. And then you kind of just freeze, and it's just kind of like, okay, like I'm just a Ymir. Like if you support the Morgan, you could argue that he's like situational kinda, because you can wall off people. But like I just, or if like you're fighting a Ymir jungle and you're trying to box him or something, or a Ymir solo or something, that's kind of rare though. Then you could maybe make an argument, but I pretty much swap into basically anything else, like any other support. I will. Although I will move him up a little higher than some of these other characters. Not in AC though. Probably like same tier as Bacchus, where it's kind of just like you're just a support. You're swapping to support, but you don't really have like a huge ult. Like you kind of just it's just damage ult. So let me see if any of these tiers need reordering. Uh, I like I like this a bit more. I like these three for team fights a bit more. Wilkes is pure 1v1. Loki's pure 1v1. Yeah, I would like these. It was pretty good outside of just the counter swap. Guan's like okay out of the counter swap. Uh, yeah, I like these. I think this is fine. Look at these situational swaps. Yeah, I think this is fine. Let me zoom out a bit. So this is the final tier list.